What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Long Haul Fitness. I'm Nick Bagley, as always. First and foremost, thank you guys for all your support. It's been a lot of fun doing this, so I appreciate your guys' feedback on the videos. Keep sending them my way. Let me know what you want to see and what I can help with, because I'm really enjoying this. But first and foremost, today is about making a better RDL. I'm also going to run you through just kind of how I set up programming and the way I look at programming exercises to help me better execute on certain things, and in this specific instance is RDLs. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is prep. I have a lot of people who will come ask me questions about like, how are you feeling? How is prep going? I'm great. We're 11 weeks out tomorrow, so I'll check in the morning tomorrow with Tuttle. When I checked in on Saturday last week, he said we were completely on the money, right where he wanted, and actually didn't pull my burger and added more food to my plan. Since then, I have lost more weight, actually. So we have 3 high days and 4 low days. They're all concurrent. So Thursday to Friday is all low. Saturday, Sunday, Monday are all high days. And they're basically, my high days are basically double what I'm eating on low days. So I've had a number of people who I really trust look at me and tell me that I'm like on the money, doing really well. Condition is right where we want it. And we're hoping to bring something really nutty this year. So I'm a tall guy. For those who don't know me personally or have never seen me in person, I'm a little over 6 foot. So I'm gonna be on the taller side in the heavyweight class. So my game will not be playing size. It's gonna be inside out conditioning. So that's what we're gonna bring you guys. I'm gonna hit my first set. We'll get talking about why this goes first to make my RDL better here in just a second.
There's no sound but the engines drone. Our minds set.
We already know that I had hernia surgery about 1.5 years. With that in mind, one of my goals was to get back to being able to RDL 405. That's where I'd gotten to right previous to surgery. I was never good at deadlifts. I was really excited about the progress I was making, and I knew coming back, there was gonna be a struggle for me to be able to get back there because of how much core bracing happens in an RDL. With that in mind, that is now what drives my decisions on what exercises go where in the program. The Nautilus pull down that you just saw me do, I did bilaterally, elbows tight, driving forward, and I'm trying to squeeze my lats. Are there other parts of my back working? Yes. When I go to an RDL, the thing that is going to stabilize my spine from the posterior is my lats. They span from here all the way down my rib cage to where they insert, and then the rest is fascia, and then deep lower back erectors. I can't flex my lower back. I can sit here and try to squeeze my lower back all day. It's not gonna happen. I don't have control over them, neither do you. Your nervous system doesn't work that way at your lower back. With that thought process, how can I feel my brace better when I grab that bar? Train my lats. So I get a good stimulus. I feel my lats really well while I'm doing this. When I go grab the bar and roll my hands and lock in, I can feel everything where I want it to be better. It's important to me. It allows me to make sure that I can tell if I'm losing that brace. It also removes some strength capacity because my back's not gonna be super fresh and my hamstrings aren't gonna be fresh either because I'm gonna do a leg curl here in a second, but it helps support not having to use as much weight to get the same stimulation. All that to say, it just helps me feel things better and reduce potential risk by reducing load on a heavier compound movement. So cool with it backwards? Just like the Nautilus pull down, the lying leg curl I'm using to get a little bit of pre-exhaustion and feel to my hamstring so that when I go over there to the RDL, I can feel them really well. It's also putting my hamstring in the most shortened position possible. I can't curl my leg any more than this. That's gonna be our weakest position here. So, and I can pump a lot of blood in there. Then I'll go to an RDL where I'm going to stretch the hamstring, which is gonna open up space in that muscle for more blood flow. A little bit of a pump before I go do a stretch movement kind of helps facilitate more blood flow, which can potentially lead to more muscle gain. Plus, it makes me feel better. Again, reduces how much load I have to use on that movement so that I don't have to go as heavy in order to get the same kind of results. Completely independent of this workout. It's so funny how precious food becomes in prep. I've been on a kick to try and perfect the air fried sweet potato. Fucking 4 months ago, I didn't want to look at a potato because of how much I had to eat, but figuring out how long to boil the potato to where it's soft, but not too soft. And then I was playing around with what temperature I needed to use and how long, because I'm too stubborn to use Google, and it gives me something to do, as stupid as that sounds. Just kind of fuck around with stuff, and it keeps my mind occupied. I also start thinking about other things. I think I've almost got it. The load, I had 50 pounds here and 100 pounds on top. That overloads kind of mid-range and beginning. So it's heaviest when my legs are fully extended and lightest as I get here. Second set, I'm gonna reduce some on the middle peg because that shit is brutal, and go for higher reps here. Really focus on squeeze. The curl movements are important when it comes to building the depth to your hamstring. And what I mean is from the side, we want depth. The quads should get bigger this way. The hamstring should get bigger that way. And the more depth to that muscle we can get, the bigger you're gonna look on stage. So I have had big quads forever. It's a genetic thing with my family. So I have to match those quads with the hamstrings. Still one of my biggest areas that I'm trying to focus on. I wanna really be able to feel them when I go in an RDL and not so focused on how much weight can I move and just make the bar move around. Trying to make progress with a heavy compound like that. The better I can feel it, the better it does in the long run. Here's the meat and potatoes of the video. Can you tell I'm hungry? RDL, how do we make it better? I've already explained my thought processes behind using exercises prior to doing this movement pattern and why you could potentially implement them in your own training. Now we're gonna talk through a setup for an RDL to get you the best results. Let me show you what it looks like first with my first warm-up set, and then I'll slowly kind of talk through the whole thing. First and foremost, why the blocks? Because if I try to go any further than this depth here, everything starts to come from that. Back rounding, spinal flexion. We don't want to do that in this movement because eventually with time, it can cause issues. You're gonna do the movement and go, deadlifts hurt my back. I can't deadlift anymore, wham, my back. We want to avoid rounding of the spine, especially under heavy weights. So the blocks are there because if I go any further than that, I start to round, and there's really that's just the limits of what I'm able to do with shifting my hips back. There's not really any mobility things to be able to get myself there. I could intentionally do that with a little bit of rounding, but we're gonna be looking at a different movement pattern at that point and a different focus. For glutes and hamstrings, I wanna stick in that range where I'm not rounding my back. Plus it allows me to start straight from the floor. You'll see a lot of people like either deadlift it up first and then they don't touch the floor and just kind of hover above, or they start in a rack or something like that and walk it out. The problem becomes as you get stronger and as there's more weight on the bar, walking it out now becomes a taxing thing that you have to think about. And it's just that much more difficult. There's a lot of weight to try and walk backwards, get yourself set, and then try to brace everything. I'm gonna start brace straight from the floor. This is already a movement that I don't do well on. So if I have to orient my whole body, get everything locked in while I'm holding the weight, not trying to drop it on my foot, adding that much extra difficulties to my setup, and it's hard for me to make it something I can standardize. So that is the reason there. Let's add some more weight, do another warm up, and I'll go to the next one. Next tip, stance. This variation of a deadlift or a hinge pattern, whatever you want to call it, I don't want to be out here. If I start spreading apart, we're now moving into a sumo deadlift. That's gonna be a lot of quad and a lot of hips. I'm looking for glutes and hamstrings. I don't need any more quads. What you'll typically see is someone set up like they would for a squat, which is here. Toes turned out and about hip distance. The problem with that becomes, as I end up in this hinged position, my femurs have to turn in. You're not gonna feel it. It's not like your knees are gonna roll in, but as we shift back, in order to keep that in the right position, it needs to be able to turn in. Internal rotation, my knee turning in. If I am here and my femur's trying to internally rotate, you can see how that's gonna be a problem here. It's gonna be really limited And then when you get strong, you're gonna go, why does my back always hurt? Because of your stance. We're gonna go narrow. My feet are just inside my hips. So this is pretty much a straight line down for me. This is what's most comfortable for me, but play around with what works for you. It might be a little wider. We wanna also keep our feet pointed straight forward because the internal rotation starts from our feet. That's where the force is being pushed. So my foot needs to be able to roll in. It needs to be able to turn in so that this can turn in, so that this can turn in. If I can't do that, that's when we have problems with the back. We'll let you see what that looks like from straight forward while I'm doing the movement and see what my feet and legs are doing throughout the movement pattern. Next thing up the chain is my hips. So when I am getting set, I have my feet set. I'm gonna grab the bar. I'm gonna push back into my hips. So you'll see me, when I go down, my back is like rounded because I'm just getting set. I'm kind of like this, getting set. What I do is I push my hips back, which now flattens out my back. And now I'm in the position I want to be in. I also have a ton of tension in my hips and hamstrings. When I did that, I immediately felt stretch, and then I can squeeze my glutes. My glutes are where I am driving the movement pattern. My hip is what pulls me out of hip extension, the glutes. If I'm here, my glute pulls me this way. My main driver is going to be my hips. What I'll often see with people as they move up in heavier weights, they start trying to rip the bar from their hand. So the first point of contact on the bar is my hands, and they want to start yanking from the shoulders. They rip it off the ground. And what you'll notice is this, a jerk to the top. It's not a smooth squeeze to the top. It's not a smooth contraction, a forceful, strong contraction to the top. It's a jerk. Then what happens, that offloads more stress into your lower back, which is what we're trying to avoid. The lower back should work. This is a great way to build a thicker lower back. You shouldn't walk away like crippled, like, oh, my lower back hurts. Where's my cane? So the first thing you'll see from the side is I'm squeezing from my hip. So the first thing that happens is my hips drive forward. And the torso is just neutral the whole time. I'm just lifting my chest to the ceiling using my glutes. Everything else is braced in. Hips and hamstrings are tense, and I drive from those up to the top. The last main point to the RDL to make your RDL better is our upper body, our torso. My hands are gonna be right outside my feet. So if I'm here, when I grab the bar, I'm just right outside that. So that as I pull, I'm not like, my hands are close to my shin, right? So they're like here. They don't need to be way out here, and they don't need to be like in the way and rubbing on my leg. From there, once I grab that bar, you're gonna see me tuck my elbows. That tuck engages my lats. So as I was saying, the lat is gonna stabilize my spine while I'm moving through that extension so that my back doesn't go, right? My lower back protects this. But what about the whole rest of the spine? It's not just the rib cage job to keep it stable. The muscle has to do that. So my lats span my whole rib cage down to the bottom here. So I'm gonna grab the bar, I'm gonna tuck my elbows, and I have tension in my lats. That's when I shift hips back, find that glute tension, I pull to the ceiling. This stays still. So this is just there to be the meat hooks that attach me to the bar to make my glutes get bigger. Thought my nose was about to bleed. Hopefully that helps fix some of your issues with potentially your lower back or not feeling an RDL where you're supposed to. Because when we start creeping up to 3 plates, 3.5 plates, 4, 5, 6, a lot of weight on a bar, these small things become even more important. So if you want to take your deadlift to the next level, really be able to push those numbers, these tips is what's going to help you do that. Hopefully this video gives you guys a little bit of insight into how I look at programming, why I program things in a particular manner, and hopefully it helps fix your RDLs. If it does, be sure to tag me in your RDL videos. Let me see that form. Tell me about how good it helped. I'll see you guys next time.